sure everything's working. Should be, theoretically. There it goes. Make sure everything's going alright. There it goes. Alright, I will go ahead and put out the link. It's just me at the moment. Red is taking care of some stuff. So it'll be a little bit before he shows up here. I am going to go ahead and put out the link. And it's probably going to be just a little bit before I actually start anything. But just making sure it's going out at least. And with that, we'll go ahead and send the link over to my nerdy home. I don't know if she'll even see it or not. No, my luck, probably not. So at the moment, I am just trying to get everything ready. Probably start in about 10 minutes or so. Go ahead. I'm going to post the link to X as well. Let's see. Probably helps if I can spell. Just kind of got to make sure everything is still working on this end. Because I do not trust OBS, I do not trust myself. Hello, one person who showed up. Not entirely sure why you showed up this early, but okay. Let's see. So right now I'm still just trying to get things set up. Usually take about 10 minutes before a stream for anyone new to this. I am hoping Red shows up. He might be busy taking care of stuff with his kids. But I guess we'll find out soon enough. So like I said, at the moment it's just me. Now that's probably not very entertaining for anybody because I'm not that entertaining on my own. It looks like Steph from My Nerdy Home put out the link, or at least posted it, so that's actually a major boost. So sorry to bore everyone who shows up at the moment. Because I am currently trying to figure out what's up with dealing with everything else on this end. Because I thought we had everything set up. So thanks to the two people who showed up. Let's see. Do I? I don't think I even have any royalty-free music I can use for this. I don't own the OST, and I know if I tried, Disney would probably kick my ass pretty hard. I don't think they would like me using the OST for anything. Huh. I have no idea how that helped me out, but okay. Let me see. Nope, he's still not on, so it's still just me at the moment. And honestly, I don't really know who else has seen the film and like that I could call in. Try giving him a quick call again. Okay, so for right now, it's just me. Red is taking care of some stuff with his kids. I don't know. I know we've had 7 views so far, 3 viewers right now. I don't know if any of you know. Red is a father of 2. He's dealing with his kids right now. Apparently, they had a gingerbread house thing today, and he's just taking care of some stuff with them. And he will be on when he can. So for right now, there we go. I will be the one to start talking about this film, since I did manage to switch everything over. It looks like it is still going all right. Okay, so first things first, I do want to bring up the current box office for this film. So Zootopia 2 is doing very well at the moment. It's broken a lot of records. And apparently it's already passed 600 million at a global box office at this point. Mostly, yeah, thanks to China. But at the moment, it is past 600 million, and I am honestly not surprised, considering the first film did over $1 billion, and we have had 9 years between Zootopia 1 and 2. And hopefully, the directors in charge of it are planning to not take nearly as long to make the third film. Which, honestly, I am kind of excited to see what they do for a third film. But right now, without going into any spoiler territory, I want to talk a little bit about like what we have seen from the trailer, what we have information that I can do without getting too in depth into the story. But at the moment, like I said, I'm not very good on my own. I really do need people to bounce things off of. But I want to talk about the voice cast to start out with, because it was stacked. I mean, they have a lot of voice actors this time around. And not just Jennifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman. So we got Jennifer Goodwin and Jason Bateman as Judy and Nick. Of course, they returned for that. And of course, we have Shakira returning as Gazelle with a new song called Zoo, which is actually pretty interesting how they decided to get that one to work. Because honestly, I think it's a lot more entertaining of a song than the previous one, Try Everything. But like I said, for Zootopia 2, we have a very large and stacked cast. I mean, even just for like bit characters. I mean, we have people like Patrick Warburton, who is very famous for doing. I mean, as soon as you hear his voice, you know exactly who he is. He's played Fred in Mystery Inc. He also played Brock Sampson for the Venture Brothers. And those are probably the two I can think of off the top of my head. We have Idris Elba, who has, of course, been in a lot of films, returning as Chief Bogo. But we also have, I'm going to butcher this name, Ki Ho Kwan, or Ke Hua Kwan. I don't know. He's Asian. I'm really not good at pronouncing names. But he is playing Gary the Snake. And I thought he did a very good job playing Gary. His voice was very unique for the character. And I'm hoping that if Zootopia 3 has him in it, I definitely want Kehua to come back. And someone I have never heard of, Fortune Feemster, playing Nibbles, who was the beaver. And honestly, the manic energy that they brought to that character really worked out. I think it was really entertaining. Kind of just watching what happened, kind of like her whole part in the story, starting out as kind of like a conspiracy YouTuber, but also the only one who actually seems to know what's going on. Like, besides Nick and Judy as they explore it. And she becomes a pretty integral character. And honestly, I'm glad for the way they do it. I mean, it's kind of fun when you get those characters who are like the crazy conspiracy nuts, and then they turn out to be right. And hello to Night Saber and John Grimney. So hello to you guys. But some of the bit characters as well. We have Macaulay Culkin as Catrick Langsley, which honestly I kind of thought he fell off the edge of the earth. I didn't really know what he'd been up to. Apparently he's been in a couple other films besides this now. I'm gonna say the way Fennec's voice actor died. Tommy Lister Jr. Died before the film was made. But the way that they did his voice was archived recordings with permission of his estate to bring Fennec to life as well for his short little scene. But we also have Jean Reno. We have Danny Trejo and Dwayne Johnson. We have Alan Tudyk returning as Duke Weaselton, of course. Michael J. Fox is in this as well. They're mostly like bit parts, but a lot of the stuff they do is actually pretty entertaining as far as I'm concerned. Like, the way that they were brought to life in this movie, the way they portrayed their characters, I think they did a good job with the voice casting. And I know Tommy Chong is also a bit part in this as well, playing yaks again. But David Strahan, or Strathairn, I can't pronounce these people's names. I am terrible with names. Plays Milton Lingsley, who is essentially like the head of the Lingsley family. And I think he did a very good job being a kind of intimidating villain type. I'm not sure what his filmography is, but if they're anything like that, I think he probably did a very good job with it. Yes, I did like the movie Night Saber. I'm just, like I said, I am not very entertaining on my own. Especially when I'm kind of just coming up with things to talk about without having somebody to bounce it off of. Like, I could never do a solo podcast on my own for a long term. But I will say, I mean, we know the basics of the film. You know, they're going after a reptile who steals a book from a gala. And something about this book apparently holds a very important secret to the origins of Zootopia itself. And honestly, the way they did that was kind of interesting. I mean, you kind of find out the book has a metal cover instead of some form of synthetic leather or some kind of paper. Like, I'm not really sure how Zootopia would handle stuff like leather, like animal-based products. Like, I know they have the running gag that a lot of the meat supply is insect or fish. And of course, there's a lot of jokes in there about. There's little visual gags, like Nick getting a takeout bag from Bug Burger. So I'm not entirely certain why a metal cover book would be that, like, just thinking about how Zootopia works, I don't know how a metal cover would really be like, oh, this clearly has something important to it if it's made of metal and not whatever other binding material they wanted to use. But it is a very interesting concept, and the book is obviously important for some reason to Gary, as he literally is shipped in from another country. And they actually say it. The reptiles aren't in Zootopia. Most of them are scattered across the rest of the planet. And this is like at the very beginning of the film, so this isn't really spoiler stuff. But apparently, Zootopia is like one major city. But it's like, I guess it'd be kind of the equivalent of like New York for us. It's like kind of the city where everything happens, but at the same time, it's not like a country or anything like that. So, 100 years ago, Zootopia was made or created, especially the weather wall system, which is how they explain all the different biomes in the city. Like you have the desert areas, the tundra areas, the rainforest areas, the marsh areas, the savanna areas. They're all separated by these gigantic walls. And apparently, the walls were constructed 100 years ago. And that was how they really kind of settled into the city. That made the city more livable for everybody in it. And the Linksley's ancestor was the one to create those walls. I mean, I'm still not entirely certain how the walls work. I guess it's just movie disbelief. You gotta have that suspension of belief that a wall can somehow separate a desert and a tundra and have no interference on each other. And yeah, the first one was fun. It had a good way of kind of setting up the city. and setting up Nick and Judy. And this movie takes place practically immediately after the first film. I mean, literally, they have a the opening of this movie is the end of the first film. It's the two of them catching Bellwether, bringing her out and arresting her. And then it goes directly into this film. There were I don't think there were ever humans. It's never mentioned. Like the farthest back we know of the movie's universe is just to 100 years ago. And something happened 100 years ago that caused reptiles to leave Zootopia entirely and spread out like to the rest of the world to go into hiding. So far the only things we know about the universe of Zootopia is there are reptiles who are sentient, or sapient, I guess. Sentient just means that they're alive. Sapient actually means they have intelligence and like reasoning ability. But there are the reptiles, so you have snakes, lizards, turtles, all that kind of stuff. And generalized mammals, but no like domesticated versions of mammals. So you have wolves and no dogs because dogs were never evolved from wolves in this universe. You have like tigers, panthers, snow leopards, but you don't have like domestic house cats because they were never evolved in this universe. So of course the whole idea is there hasn't been a single reptile in Zootopia for over 100 years because something happened to make them all leave and then the walls went up. Like apparently all the reptiles left and then Linksley's ancestor created these weather walls. And the weather walls are how the city functions. Like if something happened to the walls, most of the city probably would collapse, I guess. But part of the way they sorry, like I said, I'm basically winging it on my own here at the moment. And trying not to go into spoilers early on. But part of the main thing for this movie isn't just, there's a snake in the city for the first time in 100 years. He's after the book. We don't know why. And then there's a whole chase to figure out what's going on. But the other part of the movie is Nick and Judy's relationship as partners evolving from their having captured Bellwether. They were made partners. Nick went through the academy. And watching their evolution as they kind of more realize more about each other, like Judy being so focused on trying to be a super cop, essentially, being a super bunny cop, like being a role model that if anyone can do it, she can do it. If any other okay, I am hoping that didn't interrupt too much. Got to make sure the audio is working because my headphones just died on me. They do that on occasion. Hoping that didn't interrupt too much. Okay, it is still going. It is still recording. Yeah, that lost me for a couple minutes, for a couple seconds there because my headphones decided, we're just gonna lose connection because I use a wireless headset, a Bluetooth headset, which is part of why my voice doesn't sound all that great in like anything I do. But yes, Judy's whole thing, like she's ready to go. She wants to get into the big cases. She doesn't want to just be a beat cop. She wants to go out and do stuff that actually helps everybody of the city. And Nick is kind of just dragged along for quite a bit of it. I mean, they had the whole therapy session that's in the first trailer where Dr. Fuzby, who is voiced by, I'm going to butcher this name again, Quinta Brunson. Then they had that whole therapy session where Dr. Fuzby is asking them, like, hey, what got you guys to this point where you have to be here in like partner therapy? And immediately Judy starts listing everything off with, I don't know why we're here. We're great partners. We've been partners for a week. Happy anniversary. All that. And then Dr. Fuzby's essentially says, yeah, notice how she's the one answering all the questions and her partner is literally saying nothing. And that is a big point of a lot of this film is Judy kind of does get in over her head because she's so focused on the job at hand and not focusing on anything else around her and just assuming that Nick will follow after her no matter what she does. And of course, Nick does kind of follow her around, but he's often trying to get with a safer option, so to speak, when they're framed, which we all know from the trailer. They're getting chased by the cops. They are essentially they're rogue cops again, which I think is why China liked this movie so much. The whole cops doing everything they can. Well, it's not couples therapy, it's police partner therapy to make police partners work better together. But like I said, the difference between them is kind of obvious. Judy's the gung-ho one, and Nick is always like, okay, I'm going to go along with this because I want to help out. But at the same time, there's probably a better way to do this that doesn't involve getting the chief pissed off and trying to separate us. Because Bogo's whole thing is, yes, you two did this amazing case. That's why I put you two together. And you already fucked that up. You literally caused a huge incident that was on the news. And it kind of ruined the credibility you had for that first case. And if you two keep doing this, I'm going to split you up again. So that's part of the beginning threat for the film is the two of them kind of trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this? Like, Nick essentially wants to lay low, just kind of let things blow over, go after, like, some of the smaller cases. And Judy's practically just going straight ahead. And, yeah, he wasn't a cop in the first film. Nick was a criminal, essentially. He was a street hustler. Which he still kind of is in this film. Like, he has some connections. Like, obviously, Mr. Big is still in this film. His polar bear gang is still in with him. So, just Nick becoming a cop after being on the streets essentially since he was 12. And I think Nick is supposed to be 32 in this film, and Judy is 24. Let me double check that. Yeah, Nick is 32. He essentially raised himself on the streets after some of the traumatic stuff we saw from the first film involving his childhood. So he spent 2 decades learning how to be a street hustler, learning how to play the game. And Judy's the other side of that coin, where her whole thing was, I want to be a cop, I want to help people, I want to look out for other people. And of course, Nick's whole thing is, I need to look out for myself. And he does bring up a couple of things about foxes being solo. They're primarily very singular animals. They don't really get in packs. They are fairly territorial. Yeah, Joe Pesci would have been a great one for this film, like as one of Nick's old partners or something like that. Or as probably one of Mr. Big's minions would probably be great. Foxes aren't actually nomads. They do have territory, but their territories are fairly large. So Nick still has this whole thing of like, you know, foxes are solitary animals. So working with a partner is a little unusual for me. And of course, rabbits being the direct opposite of that, being essentially pack-based animals. I mean, her whole thing is she's still connected to Nick, and Judy is Nick's like first major friend besides Phoenix. And their whole the whole concept between the two is kind of like, okay, how is Nick kind of trying to figure out, okay, I need to work with my partner. I need to not be looking out just for myself. I have to find some way to also look out for her. And Judy is just assuming Nick is going to just go off with her and follow her and do whatever it takes to break this case. That at the same time, Nick is all for going with, okay, we've been framed, and maybe we should just lay low for a while, let the heat blow over, and then figure this out. Like, he's more of wanting to essentially be kind of like slower with the process. So, them butting heads a little bit, kind of seeing Nick get, honestly, most of the like slapstick comedy gags are based towards Nick. Like he really does take kind of a beating in this film. And most of it is thanks to Judy. I mean, as we see in the trailer, there's a whole like super long water tube scene. And that tube is essentially completely submerged, well, not submerged, flooded at all times. Like, there is no point between its entry point and its exit point where there is breathable air. And it literally has a sign over the tube saying, hey, there's no air here. Do not go down this tube. So, yep. You know, Gary jumps into that from the trailer. Judy jumps in after him. Nick jumps in after her. And the whole time, they're also being chased by the cops, the two pigs. Let me double check. I know one is Officer Hogbottom. I can't remember the other pig's name. The Zebros, or essentially two zebras, as well as a pair of hippopotamus cops who are kind of the submerged ones, like the heavy muscle. So I'm really trying not to get into any spoilers besides what we've seen in the trailers so far. I mean, I really did enjoy the movie. I thought it had a lot of great moments. There's a lot of visual gags and a lot of references that kids would get and kids wouldn't get. I mean, there are definitely some things in there for older audiences. There's a whole reference to The Shining with Jack in the Hedge Maze. There's a Great reference to Silence of the Lambs with Bellwether. And a lot of just like visual gags for small things within the universe. Like you have, well, like I said earlier, you have Bug Burger, which is like Burger King, I'm guessing. I mean, there are. I'll probably do spoilers later, like once Red's here, and I can kind of get things in order. Yeah, in a children's movie, but it's kind of done the same way. Honestly, the same way Shrek kind of did it in the first two Shrek films, where it's done in a way that's not like kids wouldn't really understand it, but it's good for adults. They'll get a chuckle out of it. But honestly, I think the biggest thing in this film that I am honestly surprised Disney did is the idea of accidental manslaughter. Like actually showing that in the film, which is how Nick and Judy get framed in the first place. But the way that I mean, they're chasing Gary out of the mansion, out of the gala, and Bogo ends up cornering all three of them, and Gary accidentally gets launched into him and winds up accidentally biting him that way. And then Nick and Judy are blamed by the Linksleys, saying, "Oh my God, they assaulted the captain. They killed him. Using the snake. They're obviously in cahoots with the snake. Get them." And I was honestly surprised Disney showed that instead of implying it like they probably would have done for most of their other films. But I mean, this film has some pretty dark moments. Like I said, I'll get into that later. Like there's an actual on-screen murder, essentially. There's one murder and apparently like three attempted murders, all shown on screen. Which I am honestly surprised for a kids movie that they would do that. But like I said, they're framed, they're on the run, and a lot of it turns out that there's a couple of big twists in it. Like one of the main things from the trailers, of course, snakes aren't actually bad. They were driven out for some reason, and apparently the Linksley's journal, which had all the blueprints and plans for the wall, somehow has the evidence that would free his family and allow them to come back to Zootopia. Like it would be a thing is like, oh, the reptiles really weren't involved in what happened. Like they're not actually bad. We just spent 100 years being a bunch of bigoted assholes to innocent people. So that's Gary's whole thing is I want to solve this so I can bring my family back. So I don't know if I would call it a redemption arc, Night Saber. I mean, he didn't really do anything himself. And for like the beginning half of the movie, he does the stealing, and then he gets picked up by a masked figure on a motorcycle and taken off, and then they're gone until later on in the film in Marshtown. And honestly, the way they did Marshtown was pretty interesting. It was a lot, I'd say, kind of like old style fish market, like a place where fishermen and their crews would mostly be for between going out and getting the hauls. And it turns out there are other sentient creatures that are not reptiles or land mammals. There is actually a dolphin working at a bar as a bartender. So there are intelligent sea animals. So I don't know how that would be addressed in a future film. Like, it's literally a standard dolphin, like mixing drinks and a couple of blowhole jokes. Like, Nick walks by and he doesn't see the dolphin, obviously. He's like, yeah, I need this plan, like I need a hole in the head. And the dolphin just looks at him like, what the hell, man? So honestly, it's kind of interesting that they more than expanded just reptiles. They also kind of expanded further out, saying, "Hey, there's like maybe the sea life is also considered sapient, like dolphins, whales. Uh, I wouldn't know if sharks, maybe. I don't know because I know it's implied in the first film and a little bit in the second that most of what predators eat, so they don't hunt prey. So obviously they can't eat anyone in the city because that was part of the major issue for the first film. And one of the questions that kind of came out of that was, well, what do they eat? They need some form of protein and meat. And a lot of it is speculated to be fish in the last 9 years, like fish, insects, stuff that isn't considered sapient, maybe birds of some form, avians. So at that point, it's kind of like, yeah, fish is not sapient. Fish is a food source. And insects are a food source. And I don't know if like they would have the technology to make like synthetic meat, like those Impossible burgers kind of thing, where it's looks like meat, it tastes like meat, it has the same nutritional value as meat, but it's not actual meat. Like it's one of the things that kind of brings up more questions than it answers, and it's all done for a visual gag for having a hole in the head. But it brings up questions that I don't know if they're going to answer in another film. I don't know if any of you watched Zootopia Plus when that was on Disney Plus. The first full episode of that had an otter waitress named Sam. She actually shows up in Marshtown a couple of times doing that same job. So they are trying to connect all three media of Zootopia at the moment. Just check on things. See if Red's on yet, because I don't know if he is or not. Nope, still just me. Yeah, like I said, I am really, really bad at talking about things completely on my own. Uh, what I know right now is Red is taking care of his kids. I think he's trying to get them to go to bed. I'm not certain at the moment. So like I said, it's just me kind of stuttering and winging my way through this with a lot of pauses. And because this is live and not edited, it's going to be kind of a mess. So sorry about that to Steph, who very generously decided to add the link to a couple of things she was doing. Yeah, writing things. I kind of did have like a general outline formed, but on my own, it doesn't really work, I guess. Because I initially planned on doing this with Red from the start of the whole podcast thing. That's why I called it Tobias and Red Review and not just Tobias Reviews. Oh, Steph is actually lurking. Thank you, Steph. I don't think Steph's coming on because I don't know if she's actually seen the film or not. Like, I don't know if like I know Ryan doesn't care. Jay might. I don't know if he'll see the film or not. Maybe because it has the how the film does has an impact on Disney parks themselves. With the Zootopia thing for Epcot, Zoogether, better Zoogether, because of course they have to have a pun on together to add zoo in there. And I know, like I said earlier, a lot of the money that this film is making is coming from China. And honestly, Shanghai had a lot of, like, I know there's a specific area in Shanghai, or Disney Shanghai, in the park there that has a whole Zootopia area. I think they added part of it to like an Animal Kingdom kind of thing on their end. I know that Nick and Judy are both park characters, like they're actively walking around the park in their designated areas. And China had a lot of the original merchandise and stuff. China also had an actual game, a mobile game, with like solving cases as Nick and Judy, which unfortunately you can't get anymore. It looked interesting, but it's Chinese and I can't read Chinese. But a lot of the like the good merchandise, plushes, actual like books, artwork, all that kind of stuff was over in China and not in the U.S. Which, as far as I'm concerned, didn't make any sense because you have other movies that made like $1 billion and Disney went whole hog on it, like Frozen. I mean, look how big that got with all the merchandising they did there. And I think they really missed out on merchandising Zootopia 1 when they kind of realized, hey, wait a minute, this made $1 billion in theaters. Yeah, maybe we should merchandise that a little bit. And they didn't. They gave us like half-ass sticker books, a couple of Hallmark ornaments. Like most of the stuff I saw from the first film, merchandise-wise, was fan-made. Like people making their own plushes, people making their own artworks, both safe and not safe, of course. Like I know Judy and Nick were probably two of the biggest drawn characters of that year in both forms. But it's 9 years between films, and like I said, I really did enjoy it. I'm just really bad at talking about things on my own, so it's kind of why it's like like this. So once again, I apologize for how it's coming out. Like I said, at the moment, I'm essentially winging this on my own. I had an outline, but I lost it. So that was fun. I guess I can go into a little bit of spoiler now. So some spoiler warning here. If you don't want spoilers, I guess click off. Or I guess if you're watching this at some point in the future, I don't know, I could put something. I'll figure something out. Okay, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. So, like I said, there's one actual murder on screen and 3 attempted murders. Because, as it turns out, the Lynxleys have their claws very, very deep into the city. They're essentially like the mob. Like, they have connections everywhere. They have connections in practically every part of the city. They have connections in the police force that they can pull the strings of. So, as it turns out, a lot of the whole thing is being framed to eliminate Nick and Judy as witnesses. because, well, they have the book. They know the snake keeps saying, "Hey, I'm innocent. My people or my family was driven out years ago, and I came back here because this is the only time the journal has ever been shown. And with that journal, I can prove that the reptiles were not at fault for what happened 100 years ago," which I don't remember quite what they call it. I think they called it like the fanging or the bite. But it's essentially a maid was murdered by a snake, like poisoned by a snake bite. And they do show what actually happens to her on screen. But that was the reason that reptiles were starting to be driven out of Zootopia at that point. It was because, like, hey, can we really trust these reptiles? You know, they're all, if one of them can accidentally or intentionally bite someone and kill them, is it really safe to have them in the city? So there's that whole big push for getting all reptiles out of the city. And it was essentially a big spin job by the Lynxleys. Because as it turns out, the Lynxleys didn't actually build the weather walls. Or they didn't actually have the plans for that. And the proof of that is in the metal journal. And the metal journal has a specific area of it that can only be read when it's heated up and then looked at with a someone who can sense heat. And because Gary just happens to be a pit viper, and pit vipers have heat sensing more so than like they have like a thermal vision kind of thing. So heating up the metal of the book cover reveals that Tundra Town wasn't actually as big as it was before. Because it turns out the whole reason, like another part of the reason that they're driving out all the reptiles is essentially land expansion. It's the Lex Luthor, I want this land expansion kind of thing. Which was, it's a real estate scam, essentially. But it works. They drive all the reptiles out of the reptile area of the city that was originally there, and then completely encase it in snow and ice, turning it into part of Tundra Town. And the proof of all that was on the front of the journal, which added a whole area in the original plan for the city on the front. Like it actually has like a blueprint or a map of the city on the front of the journal. And heating up reveals that there was a specific area next to Tundra Town that was all reptiles. It was the reptile district. And in order to, kind of cover up that it even exists, love that I keep losing it. I don't even know why at this point. Love that I keep losing it. Okay, it is back. Okay. But as I was saying, the land expansion for the tundra area of Zootopia completely went over what used to be the reptiles area. So the reptile district was completely wiped out after all the reptiles were forced out. After the Lynxley's ancestor steals the plans to create the weather walls. Like, he steals the patent for it. Essentially, like, wipes out the name of the original patent holder, writes in his own name, and then makes millions and millions of dollars saying, hey, I created these walls that make the city livable for everybody. And that's what's in the journal, is the original plans and a copy of the patent, but the actual page that has like the patent information was ripped out and replaced by the Linksleys. So finding the reptile district again is very important to the story because that is where the original patent's still hidden away. So that's Gary's whole thing is I want to, find a way to bring my family back. I want to prove that snakes are innocent. They didn't commit the murder that got everyone saying like, "Oh, reptiles are dangerous. We got to remove them." Because they were framed for it instead of like an actual, like they didn't do anything. In fact, Gary's relative is the one who stumbled upon the maid being murdered and then was framed because the maid saw the Linksley's ancestor tearing out the original patent page and putting his own in. Hold on a sec. Cat, what are you playing with? You don't need to play with that. So like I said, there was the murder occurs and then the snake is framed for it because they come across the body. And then the Linksleys are like, hey, that snake murdered my maid. And because Linksleys were already, a fairly powerful family, everyone just believes it. Like, why would they lie about that? It's the usual kind of early stupidity kind of thing. And honestly, I like the way they did the plot, where it's not just, hey, I found this book, and somewhere in this book it proves that my family's innocent. Somehow, it actually does a turn of, hey, it actually turns out there's this whole hidden area of the city that was buried in Tundra Town, and if we can find that, we can prove that one, snakes were the ones who originally created the wall systems. Like they actually made the designs for that, and the Lynxes just stole it. And the proof is there in the old area, in the old reptile district, that is completely frozen over, and we need to figure out how to find it again. So I like that it wasn't just the classic, oh, we have to open the book. It's somehow in the book. There's going to be like an explanation of everything. But it's like, their whole thing is like, okay, this book has a metal cover. Why does it have a metal cover? And why would it have to be heated up to a point to see whatever is hidden in that metal that only a specific kind of snake can see? And it turns out that it's because the journal wasn't originally made by the Lynxes, it was made by snakes. Specifically, one of Gary's ancestors created it. So that's the fun twist is like, oh, well, all these mammals in Zootopia are only still there because of the reptiles they drove out. But like I said much earlier, a major part of the film is Nick and Judy's relationship, kind of figuring out how they can work with each other. Stop playing with my tissues, cat. A lot of it is, Judy going on ahead. Hey, we need to solve this case. We need to prove that snakes are innocent. We have found where the reptiles live in the marsh area. We've talked to them. We figured out what's actually happened, that they were driven out 100 years ago because of the whole murder incident. So, of course, she's all gung-ho on helping. And Nick, on the other hand, is still like, okay, we were framed for this whole thing. Yes, that's bad. But Mr. Big has also offered us a way out. We can literally get on this other truck that he's offering and leave Zootopia until this cools down, and then we can come back. But of course, Judy immediately refuses that, gets in contact with Nibbles, who's the only other person that they can think of to have any information on reptiles, because she has a podcast that has a conspiracy thing for it. And what the major conspiracy is, hey, there are still reptiles in Zootopia. So they, of course, Nibbles shows up, is like, hey, I know where they are. Yeah, I know how to reach them. You just come with me. And then they go off to the marsh area and find the reptiles there. And then, of course, there's part of the final plot for it is to wipe out the reptiles entirely from Zootopia. Again, the Lynxleys want to turn the marsh area into more Tundra Town. So they want to completely freeze over that entire section of the city and wipe out all the life there. Like, wipe out the reptiles, wipe out the inhabitants of that entire area for more land. It's really the Lex Luthor scheme of, hey, I want more land, so I'm going to blow up this entire coastline of the United States because somehow that will increase the value of the land I own. Like, it's just one of those really weird real estate things that I honestly just don't understand because I'm not in real estate. And then as it turns out, like in the beginning of the film, we meet Paubert Lynxley, who's kind of like the outcast of the family. He's not really liked by the rest of the family because he's not evil, he's not tough. He's kind of a pushover. He's essentially the black sheep of the family in the way that they can just kind of push him around and tell him to do things, and he'll just do it. He'll just follow because he's so desperate to be accepted by his family. And his family's a bunch of evil assholes. And then later on, it turns out that the one who originally grabbed Gary from the mansion after he falls out the window is Paubert, who lives out in the desert area on his own, away from his family. So Paubert has been working with Gary to figure out, hey, how are we going to get this journal? How are we going to figure out what to do with it? And it was honestly kind of a nice twist. It's like, hey, my family's being really evil, and even though I can't stand up to them myself, I still kind of want to prove that, hey, reptiles aren't all that bad. These people aren't the Samaritans everyone thinks they are. And that's also why the police are also after Nick and Judy, is because a bunch of the cops that are chasing them are on the Lynxleys' payroll. I mean, like I said, there are 3 scenes of attempted murder, including a part where one of the cops, Hogsbottom, is actively ordered to shoot a dart at Judy while she's running towards the wall that is a poison dart. It is not a tranquilizer like the cops are supposed to be using, which are, the cops in all Zootopia have tranquilizer guns, essentially, like tranquilizer dart pistols. But apparently they also have one that will essentially kill whatever they hit. I mean, it literally has like a skull and crossbones on it. It is the stereotypical, hey, this is a death one. And so he's like, you need to shoot them, you need to take out the witnesses and silence them. So there's one attempted murder with that. There's the attack early on, that's, the accidental manslaughter with Bogo and Gary. And then they have a very Frozen twist, which I don't know if it was planned this way or they saw how well Frozen did with their twist. It was like, okay, we can do that too. We can find a way to make this interesting like that. Where, there's the guy who's supposed to be the hero, and it turns out he's actually the villain the whole time. He's doing it for himself. And this is at the end of the movie. It's a very major spoiler. So if you don't want to hear it, close your ears for, I don't know, the next couple of minutes or so. But it turns out that Paubert is actually only working with them to get and burn the original patent. So that way his family isn't in danger of losing their position and their power. And so he can get the respect of his family by making it so that they're essentially impossible to dethrone. Like there will be no more proof at all that anyone else might have made the prototypes and the blueprints for the weather walls that essentially keep the city working the way it is supposed to. So, two more attempted murders. He essentially uses snake venom in, it looks like a taser in a design standpoint, but it's essentially a poison injector. He stabs Judy with it, and she goes down. He stabs Nibbles with it, and she's practically out the entire time. And then he and Nick are having a fight over a huge overray, and he's trying to stab Nick with this as well. He's trying to kill all of them to eliminate all witnesses, get the patent page, destroy it, and be like, oh, look, I helped all of you. I'm the reason this family can stay in power still. Will you give me approval now? And honestly, I liked how they did that. It wasn't as like new of a twist, I guess, because Frozen did it. A couple of other movies since then have done the same thing, where you're kind of cheering for them, going, "Hey, look, they're about to win. The good guys are about to get what they're after," and then, whoop! Turns out one of the good guys is actually a bad guy. And there is a part, like I'd say probably 2/3 of the way in, where they're just after Marshtown. Gary jumps into the tube, and the tube is carrying them through a major valley area. Judy is running out of air. Nick is running out of air because there hasn't been any way to even get air in this tube. But there is an emergency hatch, essentially, that Nick sees ahead of them and grabs Judy, who's essentially, she is dying. She's drowning at that point. She's actively losing vision, starting to go limp, and he pulls them out of there. And then there's the whole scene of them going up the cliff, because it turns out that one of the things Gary was carrying was a box of matches with a very specific hotel on it. And the hotel is at the very top of this cliff. Which is why they have the whole cliff thing in the trailer for, they're going up with the ropes, and Nick pulls out the carrot pen from the first film that still has "I'm a dumb bunny" on it that Judy's saying. So he kind of uses that to annoy her a little bit, because he's fed up with it at this point. He is like, this isn't worth dying for. Like, yes, this is a big case, but at the same time, it is not worth throwing our lives away. Especially if you're going to keep running headlong into things and not even care about the consequences. And that's kind of, their big fight scene is them essentially being like, okay, I don't think we need to die for this case. And Judy's whole stance is we need to solve this case no matter what. So that's the kind of like the breakup part of their arc, like they do for like every sequel film ever. And they get up to the hotel, and Judy finds a room full of newspaper clippings that are all linked together. That it turns out Gary's been staying up there, and that's why he had the matches for it. He's been staying up there, he was gathering evidence, trying to figure out, where is this concrete evidence that will prove that my family is innocent, that reptiles were framed. And then, Nick finally finds her, but the cops have already found them as well, and because the police in Zootopia basically hit first, ask questions later, and because they're on the Linksley's payroll, there's the huge fight in there that actively destroys parts of the support for this old wooden hotel, and it literally like snaps in half. And Judy is saved by Gary and Paubert, who at this time is still, the good guy Paubert. And Nick is actually captured by the ZPD. And then that's how he finds out that they're actually on the Linksley's payroll. And he and Nibbles are in prison together. And he has the whole scene where he realizes why he was even so, like, he was still at that whole thing of like, we foxes are supposed to be alone. We're not supposed to, care about anyone else. But Judy is really, really important to me. She's my best friend. She's my only true friend. And I need to save her, but I'm stuck in here. And there's a huge prison break scene. They break out that way. Then they go after it, and they meet up near the end of the film again when they're inside the weather wall between Tundra Town and the desert area. And Poppert has just been revealed to be the bad guy, like an actual villain. He poisons Judy. He throws Gary out into the snow because Gary's a snake. He can't survive in the cold. He's cold-blooded. If he's out there long enough, he will die. And Judy is on the ground, essentially becoming slowly paralyzed by the poison. And she sees that Nick is inside the weather wall as well, shouting for her, trying to find her. And Pobbert essentially goes and tries to murder him with another venom injector. But it's at that point that the two finally do reunite, and they effectively admit that, hey, you're the only person in this entire world that I care about. And if you want to take that as a romantic intent, if you want to take that as, hey, we're best friends and we can't really do anything without each other, we need each other to keep going, they kind of make that ambiguous, which I'm fine with. I mean, we're hoping maybe in 3 they finally get together, but it's very much kind of stated in this one that yes, they are going to be together in some capacity. They're going to be together in some capacity because they literally cannot function without each other. Judy needs Nick because he's the one who kind of keeps her in line, keeps her from, well, essentially dying when she gets so focused on something. And Judy's the only one who really believes in Nick at all. He became a cop specifically to continue to work with her. He didn't want to be a cop. He wanted to keep being a hustler. That's what he was good at. But he turned his life around. He decided, I'm going to be a cop because that means I can continue to work with this person who is my best friend, like the only person in the world I consider my pack. Which, for foxes, a pack is essentially just a male and a female fox together. That's a pack. They are very solitary. But like I said, they work together, and they finally do kind of admit their feelings for each other. It's like, this is I can't do anything without you. I need you in my life, kind of thing. And honestly, I'm very glad they at least did that. Like, they didn't keep it like the ambiguous Disney thing of, oh, maybe they will, maybe they won't. We're just gonna keep them as platonic friends and see what people think. Like, no, they were platonic friends at the end of the first one. This one needed to increase the relationship further, especially when they realize the only thing keeping the other one alive is essentially their partner. And there is actually a scene at the end in Bunnyboro. Nick does meet Judy's family. That he says, "Love you, partner," and she records it on the carrot phone, the carrot recorder. And he specifically says to her, "Yeah, you're only gonna hear that like once in a decade." So if you want to take that as them finally getting together in a more romantic way, or that's just like the "Hey, I love you, pal" kind of thing, that's on you. Uh, you can kind of take that however you want. But like I said, it's a fun ride. Spoiler section over for now until I am really hoping Red shows up. It's been an hour and a half of me just babbling on my own, so sorry about that. Like I said, Red has his kids, so it is just me. This is why we usually would stream on Wednesdays, because that's his last day on his own. He doesn't have his kids. He's kind of free to have the night to himself, and he's not exhausted by dealing with his kids for most of the day. Which he loves his kids. I'm not saying that's like a bad thing. He really does. He's a great father, I think. But like I said, I think that's part of why I'm here on my own and not like with him. I might do another review later on of the film for like an actual podcast version of this. With him, I might talk. I might look into getting some other people on here as well. Some other people who've seen the film that have their own opinions as well. Go a little more in depth than just me talking about it. I am gonna have to edit this thumbnail, aren't I? Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out how to change this thumbnail a little bit more. But like I said, I had a lot of fun with the film. He loved the film as well. We took my mom as well. She had a good time with it. And like I said, it's a very fun, like, buddy cop adventure film. And I've only spoiled like some of it. I've still left some stuff there for people to kind of figure out on their own. And one thing I definitely really like about this film is they didn't really put any agenda into it. Like, there was no, like, Judy is not a boss babe kind of thing. She is actively flawed. She has issues. She's not she's not like, oh, I'm flawless and everything I do works out perfectly and there's no consequences for my actions. No, there are a lot of consequences for her actions, mostly in the form of Nick getting hit in the face with the consequences when his own mouth doesn't get him into trouble. Like, for most of the part of the movie up until they're separated, essentially Nick kind of following after Judy despite his better interests in self-preservation. And it's because he they just cannot admit at that point that it's like, hey, I really do need you. It's like his whole thing is this case is not worth you dying for. Because if I lose you, I lose everything. And like I said, I think that's a really great theme is that they didn't try to girl boss Judy up. She is majorly flawed. She has issues. She has problems. She's kind of blind to the consequences of her actions at the moment. Like she's so invested in getting this one thing right. Breaking this case, figuring out what's really going on, earning approval of the rest of the police force, especially after they have a major screw up in the beginning of the film with essentially a sting operation they weren't even supposed to be a part of. Like the whole thing where they're on the docks and in the trailer, Judy's jiggling the key to a gigantic storage crate. And it's like that whole sting operation was not supposed to actually happen. The police, Bogo had a plan involving like 3 other squads, and boxing in this guy that they're trying to catch. And Judy and Nick are missing, and then it turns out it was Judy's idea to have a sting operation on their own and bust this case that they were working on. Because she is so blinded by, I need to be a successful officer, I need to bring in criminals, I need to do everything I can to prove that I am as good as everybody else. And I am not like, the stereotypical weak bunny. And Nick goes along with it because he cares about her, but just won't say anything because he's Nick. He's the classic, I can't really tell this girl I really care about her type of guy, because he was alone and practically on his own on the streets for just over 20 years at the point of the film. Like I said, he starts out street hustling when he was like 12. And Zootopia 1 takes place 2 decades after that. So he has the whole thing of like, if I really do care about her and something happens, I'm on my own again. But at the same time, he's still getting over the fact that I actually care about somebody, because in the first time in my life, I have somebody else I care about that's not me. I don't just have to look out for me, I have to look out for her as well. Because if I don't, she's going to do something incredibly stupid and get killed. And she does nearly die like 3 different times in this film. And like I said, 2 of them are essentially her own fault, because she's so blinded by trying to catch Gary and figure out what's going on that she nearly drowns. They nearly get essentially taken out by their own police force, because, they're being framed for attacking Bogo, which was an accident with Gary. I have no idea what's going on with this microphone. Might have to be a driver thing. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out at some point what's going on with this thing. I have no idea what's going on. But the reason Gary only has 1 fang in the film is because one gets lodged essentially in Bogo's horn, and he has to break off the fang in order to escape. So he starts with 2 with the whole reveal of a snake being in Zootopia, and then the whole incident with Bogo happens, he loses 1 fang, and that's why he only has 1 fang for the rest of the film. But I do kind of like Gary's whole thing of also being, hey, I need to figure out why this happened, why all my people were driven out, why my family can't come back to the home they had. Like, I need to know why. I need to solve this and prove that reptiles are innocent, that they were driven out for essentially no real reason other than bigotry and, a fear that, just because they're poisonous, they're trying to kill people kind of thing. And he they find out that it turns out his ancestor is the one who created the walls. And like I said, that's why the journal has a metal cover. It's because it was written by a snake. It was not written by the Linksleys. And I know I'm also kind of going in circles. I am essentially still on my own. I am going to have to change some things. I don't know. But like I said, I probably will do a better review of this, something more organized later on. I don't know, maybe this weekend or something. I'll see if I can arrange something. I'll figure something out. So, like I said, sorry, it's kind of a mess. Uh, I will try to get a better review, or like a more, I guess, official review. I'm not really sure how I would put it. No, I'll figure something out. No worries. I will figure out an actual like review, and I'll have Red on there for that. I might have some others who have seen the film. I don't know if anyone in the GCA has seen it, but like I said, we'll go more in depth with it with that. This has just been me rambling and just trying to keep things together on my own. But like I said, overall, I really do say the film is good. I think there's a reason it's making so much money, and it's because it is a good film. It doesn't have the agenda Disney has been pushing. It doesn't have, Orange Man bad, because it turns out that the mayor isn't a villain at all. He actually has a redemption in the end. The mayor, who is Horace, voiced by I can't remember his name again. Patrick Warburton. I don't know why I always forget his name. Like, if you hear his voice, you know who he is, but at the same time, it's like I can't remember his name for some reason. It's one of those names. It's one of those voices like I hear it in everything, but I can never connect it. He has a redemption thing in the end. Turns out he's actually kind of a good guy. He's not a corrupt cop or a corrupt mayor like Lionheart or Bellwether were. And honestly, I really do say go see the film. Like, take some time, go see it. It's not even really that long. I think it's like an hour 40. Yeah, it's an hour 48 minutes. Like I said, the voice cast is phenomenal. There's a lot of fun visual gags that I can't really talk about because they're visual gags, and trying to describe them doesn't really work. There's a lot of audio gags. The music is pretty good. Shakira's song is great. And I will say they definitely paid some attention to other parts of the fandom for Zootopia, because both Gazelle and Judy have they definitely have some more curves to them than they originally did. I mean, Judy is not flat, and Gazelle definitely has some additional dancing power. We'll just put it that way. Like, she has more to look at when she's dancing. Like I said, it's a fun film. It's definitely a family film. It doesn't have any agenda, so you don't have to worry about your kids seeing like being hit over the head with, oh, you have to accept this. You have to accept people like this. Or if you're a girl, you're automatically better than everybody else. Or, oh, you can't, Orange Man bad kind of thing. Which I am so glad they didn't do, because they've been doing it recently in a lot of their films, and a lot of their films fail pretty badly. Disney Plus hasn't really been. I don't think it's really been doing that well, like compared to a bunch of the other subscription services. But that's also just my opinion. But I definitely say see this while it is in theaters, or I guess it would be on streaming after the theater run. So if you can't see it then, go see it. Go see it on streaming. I do not endorse pirating it. I do not endorse going to torrent websites and downloading this film and watching it and enjoying it with your family that way. I do not endorse that. I do not endorse saying yo ho ho go fuck yourself if you're gonna make terrible stuff and then make one good film. So like I said, this has been my review of it, my absolutely terrible one person trying to figure out how to do things review. And like I said, I'll have a more formulaic review some other time. Like I don't know, I'll think of something. Maybe this weekend we'll do something to actually talk more about the movie, and I'll ask around and see if I can get anyone else on as well to talk about their opinions of it and what they really liked. Because like I said, you're hearing it just from one furry, and that's just me. But I do want to thank the 33 people who showed up and watched for even just a little bit. Thanks to the 5 viewers I currently have right now. We have 8 likes, which I am honestly very surprised by. But I do want to say again, thank you so much for listening to me ramble and being absolutely terrible on my own. I'm not good on my own. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. I am terrible at this on my own. But thank you for dealing with me for an hour and a half, if you've stuck around that long. Thank you to My Nerdy Home. Go check out her stuff. Go check out G&G, the GCA. I'd say go check out For the Homies as well. And like they should have something coming up Friday. I'm not entirely certain what it is. But once again, thank you everyone for if you did show up. Thank you so much for that. So I hope everybody has a good night. And like I said, I'll try to do something to have a more thorough review of this at some other point. This has just been my opinions, my thoughts on it, and a little bit of the story with some spoilers. But, well, again, thanks everybody for showing up. And I hope everyone has a good night. Go check out everyone else. I think check out other reviews of this film as well. I'm not entirely certain who I would recommend for that, mostly because I don't really watch a whole lot of film review stuff, and the movie is literally less than a week old still. Like, it'll be a week old tomorrow. Or, tomorrow. So, thanks for putting up with me.